Hi, and welcome to another Divorce Discussions. And today we're going to talk all about relationships. So I have an expert on, Dawn Bennett. She speaks to singles who are frustrated with dating, as well as couples in relationships who are feeling disconnected and losing touch, or maybe wanting to not go into a relationship and have that happen. She really wants to work with people who want to neutralize strong emotions so they can make calm and loving choices for themselves. Dawn has board designations for hypnosis, NLP training, and coaching. She is an accredited certified EFT practitioner and EFT relationship and intimacy coach. Dawn, welcome.
Thank you so much, Marty. I appreciate being here.
Oh, well, I appreciate you. And relationship stuff is not something I do. I am a divorce coach, but the second they get that decree, they're off to somebody else for the relationship stuff. That's not my thing. So what got you into this, Dawn?
I have always been attracted to working with relationships and love. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I'd look at people and be like, I wonder what it feels like to love somebody. And I'd like look at their chest and be like, I wonder what love feels like for them. It was like this deep inborn thing inside of me to be curious about.
Wow. Wow. And so it always is so fascinating how people like come into coaching. I'm guessing you didn't, when you were like 7 years of age, when teachers asked you what you wanted to be, you didn't say, I'd really like to be an EFT relationship and intimacy coach. So how did
No.
you get to that part of your life?
Well, I was going to school for international business, like a good college student should. And I actually met a person at a Tai Chi class who brought me to the nursing program where they were doing healing touch, which is energetic, work on the energetic field of the body. And I went, oh, what's this magical stuff? Then I went to massage school. Then I realized that emotions are in the body. Then I got into Peter Levine's work. I became a homeopath. Then I got into EFT because I wanted to be able to help people with give them tools so they could do it themselves as well. And then I keep going farther and farther down the
Yeah.
beautiful rabbit hole. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've not on this part, definitely on the YouTube stuff, we haven't had anybody that's talked about EFT. So could you just explain what that is so that we're all on the same page?
Sure. And I'm also going to clarify because there's two acronyms for EFT. One is emotionally focused therapy, which is done as like psychologists and therapists. I do what's called EFT tapping or emotional freedom techniques.
Right,
Yes.
right.
So emotional freedom techniques or tapping is a way of releasing emotions from the past, present, and future out of the body and out of the mind so we can find calm, clarity, confidence, and choice in the situation instead.
And it's really interesting because there are so many things that people used to consider like too far on the woo woo side to even talk about in polite company. And now, like in 2010, 2011, my husband had a massive stroke. He passed away, but he had a massive stroke. And in the physical therapy room, they were using EFT. And at the hospital he was in, they had somebody doing Reiki with patients. And so, you know, the Western stuff and the Eastern stuff is starting to sort of intertwine. So it's interesting how are you seeing that there's more acceptance, or do you still get pushback, or how do you see that?
I get some pushback, but much less. Like when I first came out of massage school, if I said the word chakra, people would not know what I was talking about.
Right.
And now most people know what that is. Or if I talked about quantum field, people would, you know, is she a witch?
What is that stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. And now I talk about the science and the soul of relationships. Like where's the science, but also where's our soul? Where's our mind? Where's the pattern that's come through epigenetically through generations? And
Right,
how is that?
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's funny because I'll never forget when I realized that a lot of this stuff was going mainstream is I do mediation. That's one of my real businesses on the side. And I actually had a lady call me up and said, okay, we're going to have this family and divorce mediation. And she actually called me up and said, should I bring my yoga mat? I'm thinking, what is she talking about? And she was getting meditation and mediation mixed up.
Love it.
Yoga and resolve their marriage. So tell me a little bit about how you work. Let's focus, if you don't mind, maybe for this conversation, on the singles, because a lot of the women listening in here are maybe in the divorce or past the divorce process, and maybe they're starting to think about, I'd like to go into a new relationship, but I don't really know how to date. I'm too old to date.
Mhm.
I'm scared of dating now because I've heard about, the Craigslist killer and all these other things. Like, how do you get people to get confidence to go forward with
Mhm.
this? Is that one of the things you work on?
Absolutely. And first, it is about let's clear the emotions, first of all, of the past relationships. And then also, those limiting beliefs do influence what we're looking at. If all I'm saying is, I don't want to find another cheater again, I'm setting the bar pretty low for my next relationship,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, one of the things that I really encourage people to do is actually write a list of what are all the things they didn't like about their past relationships. What are all the things they loved? Turn the negative things, the things they didn't like, into positives, and then look for themes. And then what are the traits out of those themes? What do you really actually need in a long term partner? So, for example, when I took this class on how to do this called Learning to Find Love, it was created by a corporate behavioralist who's like, how do we find the behaviors of a CEO in a corporation? Well, let's turn that into how we date too. What I realized personally is that my number one trait I need in a partner is playfulness. Because I like to goof around when I cook, and I like to like flirt a little bit, and I like to roll down hills in the middle of summer because I think it's fun like a 4-year old. And I wanted someone that could do that, but it was never something I looked for in a partner. So when I tell people to, when they start getting back in the dating world, first really realize what are your boundaries around what you will and will not put up with per se, right? And not just put up with, but like what really serves you? What
Right.
are the traits you need? What does it look like when people are giving you loving consideration and treating you like the king or the queen that you are? And along with that, what are the things that are no-goes for you? Like, how do you know you're not getting those things? So, for example, if I want a partner who's really into family and I say, oh, tell me about your family, and they're like, well, my mom was blah, 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 blah. Okay, that could be like, that's not what I need in a partner. The other thing I like to tell women is most of us know right away whether or not someone, within a couple of weeks, a few dates, whether or not someone's a good partner for us. But then we stay out of loneliness or just, well, they like us, or maybe this is, I'm too old, it's a small town, I'm not going to be able to find anybody. All of those belief systems that then actually trap us in those relationships.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, when I let this go, I'm showing God or the universe that this is close, but I actually want this more. And I'm doing the other person a favor by releasing them to someone who's going to appreciate them more. So
Right.
I don't have to feel guilty.
Right. And I think the other thing, I think like a lot of the women that I talk to will stay in the relationships because they think that if they just put a little love and attention and maybe a little bit of training, they can turn that toad into a prince every single time. And not that the man is a toad, it's just for them, for the match, it's not right. But they think that they can somehow just love them into being the partner they want to be. And that's not the way life works, right?
No, absolutely not. I can love somebody and let them go.
Yeah. And that might
And
be the
that
more loving thing.
it is, because now they find someone that loves them for that thing that drives you crazy.
Yeah. So I think you touched on some really good things. What do you think is the most, what do you think you hear clients now talk about their fears or their frustrations with dating that maybe is different than you heard when you first started working in this field? Or is everything always stay pretty much the same?
What I am seeing a lot is the ghosting thing. The Because what happens is we start now, online dating so popular, it's very easy to present to someone else. The
Mm-hmm.
complaints I hear from men, by the way, for your females, is that people put up old pictures and then show up. And it's like, well, if step one is a picture that already shows me that you're lying or that you're insecure of who you are, that already sets us up to fail.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, this lack of this lack of, hey, this isn't going to work for me, or I need more connection. I often tell people, get on the phone right away. Because when we are texting all the time or emailing back and forth via the dating apps, we're not creating a long-term bond, and we're actually wasting a lot of time. And that's when the ghosting often happens quickly. So, step in, really get a sense of who that person is, and be you. Like, I know it sounds super trite to just like be authentically you, but if you're trying to be who they want to be, eventually they're going to find out.
Right. And that's one thing I know. If you find somebody that has exactly the same, this is the flip side of it. If you find somebody that just loves every picture you post, that just says, "Oh, I love Italian food. That's my favorite artist. That's my favorite movie." You got one of two choices. They're either a really good match or they're a narcissist. You got a 50-50 chance, right?
Right.
That's what narcissists do. They become the person you want them to be, right? So,
absolutely.
So do you encourage people then to fairly quickly have like at least a phone conversation as opposed to just communicating online? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Once it feels comfortable, I'm
Right.
not saying like, oh, like connect and then hurry up, jump on a phone call.
Right.
And if women want to protect, like I have a Google Voice number that I use for my business that I can post on the internet, because then they don't have my personal cell number. And so I know people that do that. They set up an email that's just for dating, or they set up a Google Voice number, or some kind of alternate number that they can use for online. So that way, if they do feel like this person isn't right, it's
Right.
a lot easier to block them. They can't, so it creates a sense of safety for some women.
Yeah. Do you find, and this is so fascinating for me because I don't deal with this at all. As you can tell, I just pass it off to somebody like yourself. Do you find that now, though, even if you try to, I mean, shield yourself, I mean, we're all so discoverable, right? I mean, we're a Google away, we're one paid, record search away from people finding out. So, do you think people are still fearful, or I don't know, fearful, but nervous about the online dating, or is it more mainstream, especially after COVID and everything else that's been?
I think it's more mainstream, and really in general, if you're really connecting with somebody, if you're following your intuition and your vibes about who is this person, most of the time you're going to be just as safe as when you run into them at a bar or on the street or at a coffee shop or on a hike,
Right.
as you would online dating.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So let me ask you one other question about this dating thing. Well, I'll probably ask you a bunch more, but at least this one. What are your thoughts on meeting people online on dating sites, whatever one, that maybe are quite a distance from you? So maybe they're on the other side of the country, or maybe they're even in a different country. I mean, I guess that depends on the individual, but kind of is that part of the things you should be assessing before you get on those dating sites? Like, would I be willing to leave my country? Would I be willing to leave my state? Like, do you need to plan that in advance, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, it goes along the same thing, or what are the traits I want in a partner? So what I tell people is look at the traits, look at how they treat you. That will lead to long-term chemistry, but also what are the compatibility things? Do they have kids or not? That can be a big issue for people.
Right.
That really makes it a make or break. The same thing with moving. If I have a house and a solid job, and they have a house and a solid job, and we both have children in different states, we're not necessarily wasting each other's time, but how much am I willing to negotiate with that?
Right.
And so for some people that's something that is a no-go. So they will keep a boundary. So it's really up to the individual to know before they get into that. Like, what are they really looking for? What are they honestly willing to do? I know a woman who just met a guy in Florida, and they have a long distance relationship. He tried to move up here, but then something happened with his job, they're in their early 30s.
Right.
And they're just totally smitten, and they're figuring it out. So it's all possible.
Yeah, it's whatever you want to make it, whatever you want to make happen, I'm guessing, right?
Absolutely.
When do you typically find women in particular start coming to you? Is it like, especially with the dating stuff, is it have they tried other things? Like, have they tried the blind dates that the friends set them up on, or have they been isolated for a while and are feeling like, well, I'd like to get out and start meeting people again? Or what brings people to you as a relationship coach and a dating coach?
Yep. So what I see most often when it comes to dating is women that are really frustrated because they've tried all the things and they've almost given up, right? Like all the guys are narcissists and all the women are crazy and all these things society keeps saying about each other. Or they're noticing that all the guys are nice and they're trying to, either the guys are all nice or they're all mean, because I'm either going for chemistry, right? Which sometimes then when we're going for chemistry, we're dating that guy that's going to just sleep around or do whatever. Not to say that's bad. Sometimes it's fun to have one of those if that's what you choose. And then we get, especially if we've been in a relationship that's had a lot of drama, when we have a guy that's consistent and that's solid and that's stable, as women, we can be a little bit like, when's it coming?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we actually feel unsafe and we start running from those. And I get women that come with that too. Like, I don't really know how to be in a relationship because I either feel like I have to run the whole relationship and be super independent and I can't let the men step up at all, or I keep dating these jerks that treat me crappy because the nice guys bore me.
Right. Right.
And there's something there about that.
So Dawn, if somebody, let's say somebody listening is thinking, well, let's say me, I'm 60 years old. I, haven't dated since 2002. And now I want to get back in the dating world. I don't really, but let's just say I'm very happily single. I love my life. What would you say are sort of the top five things I should do and the top five mistakes that you see people make?
Mm-hmm. The top five mistakes I see people make, we'll start there because that seems to be a little bit easier.
Okay.
They jump into relationship because they've decided it's time to be in a relationship. Right. Or they settle, quote unquote, settle, be like, well, I don't want to be old by myself. Right. They're allowing their fear to drive their relationships, those kinds of things. I need a partner for my kids, right? I see that in the younger generations. I need a dad or for my children. So I just want to find somebody who likes children.
Right.
Versus really finding that long term. Now, that's a safety and security thing as well. So there's nothing wrong with that. But is that really what you want long term? Because you may end up in another divorce. You may end up in another bad relationship. So the mistakes are really about not A, healing the emotional wounds from the past first, B, identifying what it is that you truly want and need in a partner and how to identify that, and C, giving yourself the time and patience to really find that person.
Yeah. And I'm thinking that really having somebody like yourself to ask those hard questions, because I think if you try to do this work on your own, like we've all got blind spots, right? And we may not recognize the patterns of behavior that we're just repeating. Like I know a lot of time with my clients, not necessarily about dating, they can tell you 101 things they don't want, but they can't tell you what they really want. They just know what they don't want.
Exactly. And then we jump from another thing that we didn't think to not look for.
Exactly.
But where our focus goes, energy flows. So in other words, and they'd even talk about this when you're in an unhappy relationship, people will miss 50% of the positive things that their partner does because all they're focused on is the negative things or the things they don't like.
Yeah.
And so the same thing when we're dating and we're trying to get into new relationship, if I just don't want a narcissist or if I just don't want someone, I'm really limiting myself instead of being like, what do I want?
Right.
But also as women, I think another disservice we're doing to ourselves, and I've been there, done that. Here was my pattern. I'll just tell you my pattern. I'm a strong, independent woman, right? I own businesses. I've built businesses and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So I'd get in a relationship and then something would happen where, the guy wouldn't plan something or something would go wrong or, I grew up, my dad was construction, right? So I know how to put a roof on. I know how to do electrical. So I'd end up doing some of that. And then I'd decide that they can't do anything. So I'm going to do it all. because they're not good at it. And then I would take over the whole relationship, and I'd hold the feminine energy and I'd hold the masculine energy. And then I'd be like, look at them. They don't do anything. Why am I even here?
Yeah.
And then when really I wouldn't even let them step up when they tried, because somehow back in the day, like I wasn't trusting myself to be held.
Yeah.
Right. I wasn't communicating clearly what I needed. I just would do it.
Yeah.
You didn't do it the way I wanted to, so I'm just going to do it. And now I'm going to resent that you don't do it, but I'm not going to tell you that because I'm not even aware of that. I'm just going to show you what an awesome woman I am, and I don't need a man, and here I go down the road.
Yeah.
So that's a mistake that we're making a lot as women now as well.
I think, and we're just about out of time. I always hate it when these conversations have to start wrapping up, but I think another thing that a lot of times we do is we assume that because we are speaking words, that those words are being heard by the other person. And, guys kind of get this bad rap for they don't really listen. But a lot of times women choose to talk when men aren't fully present anyhow, like when they're watching the football game or when they're doing whatever. And that's being really stereotypical. I get that. But what you said was so true, that we don't state what we want to our partners, and then when they don't give it to us, we get pissed off at them, but we've never actually told them. And men do the same thing. But so I think really that if you can help people get through that so that they're clear on what they want and able to articulate that to people that they want a relationship with, I just think it would be so much easier to date with that kind of support.
It is.
Yeah. So, Dawn, after all of this stuff that we've talked about, what do you think is the most important thing that you'd like people to remember after hearing this?
Know yourself. Know what you want. Know what that looks like. Like, be able to write it down. I want someone who's playful. What does that look like? That means that they do this and this and this. What's the counter evidence to that? Well, if they, make fun of me for blah, 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 that's counter evidence. That means they don't have that trait. And then I let them go, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And my sense is from how positive you are about speaking about this, that when you're that clear, you're able, like you say, you're able to identify this very early in the relationship before you've spent 6 months or a year together, because then it gets harder to get out of those relationships without bad feelings. So yeah, this is really powerful. I can see why people come to you and talk to you about this stuff. So that leads me to the next question. If people want to find out more about what you do or get hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
So I'm on all social media. They can find me there. My website, which is mainly currently wrapped around relationship struggles, is unified-mind.com. But my free gift for everyone today is at a different site, which is unifiedmind.info/EFT self-care. From there, they can get a free class on how to do tapping, to neutralize their emotions, to calm themselves, about the past relationships, about the divorce, about the struggle, about the fear of what if this person is, what happens if I spill my water during the date, whatever.
Yeah.
Because then we can be more clear about what it is that we want and really react from our deep selves.
Wonderful. And you're listening to this on YouTube. So now you know that I am going to have Dawn come on the D-Shift podcast, and we're going to talk more about EFT and all the good work she does. So thanks so much for listening in today. And please reach out to Dawn. As you can see, she's fun. She's great to talk to. And she has some wonderful gifts for you. So thanks so much for listening in. Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you so much.